Concussions are a serious issue that affect thousands of young athletes every year. Untreated concussions or an early return to play, or God forbid multiple concussions, can cause lifelong physical and emotional instability. Hi everyone, I'm Kiara Hay and you're watching part 4 of our State Champs Summer Series, Concussions and the Modern Athlete. This episode will discuss the real dangers of concussions. We'll delve into some of the new measures and protocols that are currently in place to keep our youth safe. Plus, we'll take a look at just a few of the many innovations being worked on to lessen the impact of this condition. State Champs has been around for 15 years, and normally we energize all of our focus on entertaining our teenage fans, but this show is for the parents. Just a warning, some of these images could be considered graphic.
A concussion occurs whenever the brain moves quickly or stops quickly. So you can imagine a direct blow to the head when the skull is moved around quickly can cause it, but so can a hit to the body. If you get hit hard in the chest and your head gets whipped around, your head doesn't even have to hit anything really for your brain to experience the force that can cause a concussion.
We were in practice and we were doing a hitting drill and I got hit in the neck so hard that I got the concussion. I remember I blacked out, my coach had to pick me up, and then after that I was just gone.
My first concussion was practice. We were doing MMA. He did a reverse heel kick, so his heel made contact with my head and it knocked me down. One of my teammates was like, "Are you sure you're okay? What's your name?" And then she made a joke and I started laughing, and then right when I started laughing, I started just hysterically crying.
It's important to understand that the term concussion is a very specific one. It's one that I think is used incorrectly a lot, and it involves interfering with the function of the brain more than the structure of the brain. So in other words, it is not bruising of the brain, it's not a bleed, it's not anything dramatically structural that's wrong with the brain. It's more of a functional injury that is temporary. Now that's different from post-concussion syndrome, which is a continuation of symptoms after the concussion is over. And it's also different from the long-term effects that can be there, not from concussions, but from actually just getting hit over and over again. So those are 3 different types of diagnoses that we have to keep in mind with every patient. Every individual will have a different presentation of concussions.
My head is throbbing with pain, and any stimulation whatsoever, whether it be talking, listening, literally any stimulation to the brain just worsens it.
Mostly the concentration is where it's at. Besides that, probably emotional and social boundaries too is where it's starting to get a lot harder.
At the end of the 2015-16 school year, we spent some time researching the results of the school's reports. And we learned, not surprisingly, that the sport with the greatest participation, football, also had the greatest number of concussions reported. But second was girls basketball, and third was girls soccer. We need to find out why. Is it sociological? Are girls just more willing to report the injury than boys are? Are boys hiding the injuries?
There's a study out of North Carolina a few years back, over 9 different states, that estimates as many as 55% of injured athletes are not reporting concussions. And that number is too high.
If you continue to play and don't even get hit again, but if you continue to exert at a high level, you can take an injury that would have been 2 or 3 or 4 days long and make it 7, 10, 14 days long or even longer.
The test, a lot of players will lie just to go back to play, but I mean, it's your brain. You're here for school. That should be your #1 priorities.
We all think that athletes oftentimes will want to hide their symptoms, and I want to keep playing, I'm not going to tell anybody. And that does happen. I've been on enough sidelines to know that that happens and continues to happen. But what does happen a lot, and people don't recognize it, is that concussed people just don't know they're concussed. And so they are impaired. And sort of asking an impaired person, how are you doing? And so their answer doesn't really matter, right, if they're impaired.
One of my research questions involved what I call traditional barriers to concussion event reporting. That 3 generations ago, the phrases that are traditionally used to dismiss a brain injury, like he just got his bell rung, or she just has a stinger, she can't miss time because the championship match is coming up. I wanted to measure the perceived impact of those statements. Are they still being used? And one of the key findings in my research, 3 out of 4, 75% of athletic administrators agree that those dismissive terms are no longer being used by coaches at our school. But when I asked the same question about parents, and that was a near 50-50 split.
We would like parents to know their place, and I say that kindly. At events, that means that parents know that the decisions of whether a student's going to be taken out of play with a suspected concussion is not the parent's decision, it's the sideline personnel decision, and parents should not try to override that decision to remove their child from play. And at home, the parent's place is to be alert to the signs and symptoms of potential concussion. Inquire, and then don't wait. Go get professional help promptly.
I see, sometimes with the same sets of parents, the fear of an injured child along with the frustration of lost playing time and lost opportunities to compete. And I see both of those emotions happening simultaneously with each other.
When the concussion crisis, if you will, reached American consciousness, it was a football issue. It was pretty much a National Football League issue. But we knew right away, as an organization that's responsible for all sports and both genders, we could not address just football. We had to look into all sports, and we're glad that we did.
Over 4,000 concussions were reported among Michigan high school athletes in 1 year alone. Find out what new measures are taking place to prevent concussions and keep our children safe when Concussions and the Modern Athlete return.
I want to be a dermatologist, and though a lot of universities tried to recruit me for basketball, Lawrence Tech had the science curriculum that I wanted. LTU's Southfield campus is a great place to learn, and the classes are small enough that I don't have to wait for office hours to talk to my professors. They're usually right by my side, challenging me and guiding me toward a successful future. Lawrence Tech, possible is everything.
There's an old saying, you can never have too many officials. The age of the average official is 52 and getting older all the time. We're constantly recruiting new people, younger people to join us. After you register with the MHSAA, look on the website to find an officials association near you. They'll put you in a position to succeed as an official. We all learned a lot from high school sports, and officiating is a great way to give back to the game. There's help wanted, just whistle.
Touchdown, Falcons!
Welcome back to part 4 of our State Champs Summer Series, Concussions and the Modern Athlete. I'm Kiara Hay. Before the commercial break, we identified the symptoms and talked about the serious effects concussions and post-concussion syndrome have on our youth. The Michigan High School Athletic Association, as well as healthcare physicians, are dealing with this issue head on. Let's explore.
My 4 constituent groups were athletes, coaches, officials, and parents. And in every measurable category, all 4 of those constituent groups, their behavior was positively impacted by the legislation, although to varying degrees. The coaches generally received the largest positive impact. As high as 87% of athletic directors perceive that coaches' behavior in reporting concussion events with their players and adhering to protocols was positively impacted since the passage of the legislation.
We were an early adopter of the protocols or removing players and returning players to activity, and an early adopter in limiting the amount of contact that can take place in practices at football. But where we took giant leaps ahead of where we'd been before and where most other states are in the country was 2 years ago when we took on 3 new initiatives. One was the mandatory reporting of all suspected concussions in high schools. All sports, practice and competition, both genders. No other state was doing that.
%99 plus of our schools are reporting their concussions. That's a pretty impressive response from our schools. Anytime you have that type of compliance, other states are looking at us going, how is that possible?
We also, in that year, adopted a concussion care insurance program that we pay for. We don't pass the cost on to the schools or to the families of the athletes. All eligible athletes in junior high, middle school, as well as high school level have this concussion care gap insurance, which is intended to pay for medical bills up to $25,000 if parents have no insurance, or if they have high co-pays or high deductibles, it will pay that for them. And so this is something that we were first state in the country to pay for all of the schools, and we're still the only state in the country that pays for it at the junior high, middle school, as well as the high school level.
At the Sports Neurology Clinic, we offer a very unique clinical evaluation and treatment program. We believe that, first of all, an evaluation of athletes, it is more than just evaluating them at rest in a clinic room. You have to get them out, get them active in their environment sometimes, on the field of play, on the ice, wherever you need to really understand how that person's nervous system may be injured or is responding to recovery. So we have a very dynamic, active approach to our patients. We also offer a whole spectrum of evaluation tools, from brain network mapping and imaging to balance testing, eye movement evaluation. And at the end of the day, all those things come together for us to provide a very unique experience for our patients that treats them as an individual so that they get the best diagnosis, and then their treatment plan is defined by that.
2 years ago, we launched 2 two-year pilot programs to help bring attention to the removal from play phase of concussion care.
There were 2 very different programs that were chosen. One of them, the schools received Android tablets, and in those tablets there was a test reporting and recording system. That test measured the disruption in the eye's ability to travel across the page. The second one was a comprehensive digitally delivered program that included preseason education, baseline testing for cognitive function and balance. The role of the coach has become so much more complex than it has ever been. As we have a program of education, it's called the Coaches Advancement Program, that allows for coaches to be in an interactive setting with an instructor where they're learning from each other, they're learning from the instructor, and it is in a very collaborative face-to-face setting. This past year it's been a requirement, and for all upcoming years a requirement for any new head varsity coach in the state of Michigan takes a CAP 1 or a CAP 2 program.
Not only have I taken classes, but it's under my own interest to look at research and what's out there. And I think just being more aware of signs and symptoms, what it actually and how the body's being impacted by concussions short-term and long-term, I think that's probably been the biggest benefit to taking these classes. Again, this was something that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, wasn't really at the top of people's minds like it is today.
I remember the first time I went into a high school, contacted an athletic director and said, I'm totally willing to come and give a lecture to parents, coaches. This was probably back in 2006 or 7. There was an awkward pause on the phone and sort of, you want to do what, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to come do that. Okay, well, we'll set it up. And I'll never forget it, there were maybe 3 people in the audience. That culture really changed, I would say, late 2000s, 2008, 2009. We have done, just in the past 3 months or so, probably a dozen events with 50, 75, 100 people.
I don't think there's any greater responsibility for those who manage athletic programs than to protect and promote the health and safety of the participants. I believe that when moms send their children to our programs, more than anything else, more than playing time, more than wins and losses, more than scoring points and making records, more than anything else, they want their child safe in our care. That's why we thought that we should do more than just what is acceptable. We wanted to actually get ahead of the curve with a lot of the concussion care measures that we were undertaking.
All 50 states now have concussion safety laws, so that's progress. But has society's increased awareness of concussions caused unnecessary fears and backlash? We'll discuss when Concussions and the Modern Athlete return.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lawrence Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lawrence Tech, possible is everything.
Sports give so many opportunities to kids. It gives them an opportunity to see where they fit within a team, persevere, understanding how to work with different personalities. Those are the lessons that will make you a successful adult. As a mom, you have to have an understanding of what concussions are.
Concussions are things that are treatable. If we take care of athletes, they will be able to develop and have a long, happy, healthy life.
Camp is Metro Detroit's original Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram dealer, and we're still making the best deals every day.
During the summer clearance event, lease a Ram Crew Cab 4x4 as low as $189 a month, or a 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee for just $249.
Sales service and a superior buying experience. That's Snap Camp on Telegraph Road in Redford.
Snap Camp, Metro Detroit's original. Snap Camp, Snap Camp.
Welcome back. If you're a parent watching this show, you might have the impression that the amount of concussions affecting our youth is at an all-time high. Well, think again.
I think as time goes on, as more concrete concussion data becomes available, I fear that the future will bring negative publicity to these injuries, that concussions are on the rise. Well, no, I don't think they are on the rise. I think that now that we're getting concrete data, that people are becoming more aware. Concussions aren't new. They've been around for generations, for centuries. But our awareness is new.
Parents don't understand how much safer this game has become in the last 5 years. I think that's definitely impacted the participation in football. I think that's unfortunate because the game is safer than it's ever been on 4 levels: medically, awareness, the equipment, and then the governing bodies and the rules and regulations that limit or are trying to limit the contact to the heads.
Even if you think about all of the worst case scenario stories that you may have seen on TV or read about, that those individuals who represent a minority of athletes played in an era of sport that is vastly different from today. And if we are assuming that playing hockey or football or soccer in today's world is the same as it was in the 1970s or 80s, you haven't really kept up with what's going on.
I think that while we have done a lot with education and with detection and prevention, we can't be satisfied with where we are. We must be continuously on the lookout for ways to make our good games even better, our healthy games even safer. Some of that will be driven by data. Some will be driven by good common sense about the ways coaches and administrators determine that the games can be played safer. Not just football, all of our sports.
In the future, there are some important steps that we can take, I think, to make our sports even safer. I would love to see that we're actually trying to promote actively here. If you play a contact sport, I also want to see you on an annual basis every year, because we talked about the long-term effects. Those don't come from concussions, those come from exposure to forces. So if you play any sport where you're experiencing contact as a part of the game, it makes perfect sense that you come and see a neurologist once a year, just for an evaluation of how is your brain working in the background.
There's a return to play protocol with 5 steps to reintegrate an injured athlete to athletic competition. Well, there's also an RTL, a return to learn protocol, that we will use in the academic portion of a child's life to reintegrate them into a full, rigorous academic learning environment.
When someone is concussed, obviously there are symptoms that interfere with athletic abilities, but also cognitive abilities. And we try to not separate out return to sports from return to learn. For us, it's really the same process. It's return to participation in life. And so your ability to tolerate the rigors of a sport should be as equally important as your ability to tolerate the rigors of the classroom. And so we got to make sure those things are coupled together absolutely and every single time.
I would love to see return to learn protocol become more commonplace in our schools and talked about to a higher degree with our academic intervention specialists, and to work more closely with our teachers and our guidance counselors on reintegrating an injured student into a full and rigorous academic curriculum. We need, as sport organizers and sport leaders, we need to continue to educate, promote, and reassure our constituents, our families, that school sports, contact sports, collision sports are safer than they've ever been. We have better equipment than we have ever had. We have rules in place that promote safety to a degree that we've never experienced before.
The greatest obligation that any coach has, any administrator has, is to try to keep safe the young people in their care. That's more important than winning games. It's more important than scoring points, breaking records, is keeping people safe. And more than that, helping them live healthy lifestyles. We hope that they're developing habits in our programs that will make them more active adults and healthier as adults. And if we're not doing that, if we're not making healthier, better citizens out of school sports, then we better remodel what we're doing and start over again.
So as you can see, concussion prevention, awareness, and care are better than they have ever been. But there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done. In just a moment, the MHSAA's conclusion from their recent statewide concussion study. Stay with us.
At At Sparrow, we find ways to improve healthcare for our community. That's why we're Michigan's first member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network. Advancing knowledge, innovative teamwork, and shared expertise are in the company you keep. Choose wisely. Choose Sparrow.
I want a career in robotics and automation, so I chose Lawrence Tech for its first in Michigan robotics engineering program. LTU's brand new STEM complex has a robotics lab where we can design, build, and program robots in a creative atmosphere. And the best thing is, I haven't graduated yet, but I already have a job in my field. I know I made the right choice for my career. Lawrence Tech, possible is everything.
Get ready! The high school football season will be here before you know it. The Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic returns to Midtown Detroit on the campus of Wayne State University August 24th through the 26th. Michigan's premier season-opening prep football event, now in its 13th year, will welcome 7 games in 3 days and feature the state's top teams and players. Log on to DetroitSports.org for more information. The Prep Kickoff Classic. Tickets on sale now. You gotta be there.
At Sparrow, you get the finest cancer care from the region's most trusted health system. As a member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network, we can connect with the Mayo Clinic for complex cancer cases, keeping your care close to home. Choose wisely. Choose Sparrow.
Welcome back. The MHSAA's new 2016-2017 concussion report revealed that for the second consecutive year, girls are still reporting twice and in some cases triple the amount of concussions as boys. And we don't have a solid reason why. However, there's still progress. When you compare this year's study to the one conducted after the 2015-2016 school year, concussions sustained by high school athletes are down 11%. Now that's great news, but that number doesn't necessarily indicate a trend. It just means that we're moving in the right direction. The people and organizations you met during this show, along with countless others, are dedicated to keeping youth sports as safe as possible. And of course, State Champs will keep you updated on all the latest studies, research, and technology in concussion research. If you think a loved one has suffered from a concussion, please seek medical advice immediately. You can visit the Center for Disease Control and Prevention for a full list of signs and symptoms. The State Champs Summer Series continues next week. I'm Kiara Hay. Thanks for watching.